When you go to a Lasallian school, you frequently hear the words, "Let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God." This is a practice that dates back to the very first schools begun by de La Salle, when every half hour a student tinkled a small bell and then said these very words. And we start today with a prayer based on these words. Let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God. Let us adore Him. Let's take each word or phrase separately. Let. This is an invitation. You are not forced. It suggests enabling, empowering, allowing. Us. We are aware that we are a group of people together. It's not just me, but us, even if separated by many miles and linked only by technology. Remember, we recall, we bring to mind an awareness of who we are and what we are today because of the past. That we are, the present simple of the verb to be. We are mindful of the here and now, the present. I'm aware of my breathing, my senses. As they say in Kinbury, live in the now. In the holy presence of God, we acknowledge that with us there is our Maker, whatever our understanding of Him is. But our Maker is important to us. He helps us grow as human beings, and we acknowledge that our ultimate goal is eternity with Him. I will continue, O my God, to do all my actions for the love of you. Saint John Baptist de La Salle prayed for us. Live Jesus in our hearts, forever, in Maltese now. Jees Jesús Albana Aldeye. I will not try the Gaelic form. Our Irish friends can read that themselves. So, let me introduce myself. I am Mariella, and I welcome you to another stage in our Lasallian journey. I began my Lasallian journey many years ago, and I walked through the ranks, as it were. I was first a teacher, then an assistant head, and for the past 15 years was head of De La Salle Primary School in Malta. Fantastic years, all of them, with their ups and downs. I'm also very grateful to the brothers who gave me many opportunities to meet other Lasallians, either in the district, GB, Ireland and Malta, or even in the region, Europe and the Mediterranean. And every experience has helped me grow as a person. And I'm also a mom of 2 grown-up children, and very recently a grandmother, very happy with a new grandson. I told you this because I believe our stories are important. Your story is important too. Who you are, how you came to be here today, what you think and believe in, your values, your hopes, your dreams. They're all part of our next step in the Lasallian journey today. You remember, we began these sessions first with a welcome to the Lasallian family, and then we heard about the founder's story, and in the last session we talked about the 5 core principles. And today I'm actually focusing on one of them, one of the 5 core principles, which is faith in the presence of God, as we try to understand what is meant by Lasallian spirituality. Because this is the added dimension to our schools. We are not just an NGO trying to make the world a better place. There's something more. So we will continue our journey together. Let's go. Let us take a look at these 2 words, Lasallian spirituality. What do they mean? First of all, a definition of the word spirituality, relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things, relating to religion or religious beliefs. So what then does the adjective Lasallian add to the common understanding of the word spirituality? And I refer here to an article by Brother Gerald Rummery. He writes that it brings a particular flavor or indeed emphasis because it is inseparably linked to the life story of Saint John Baptist de La Salle and the worldwide educational movement of which he, on his own admission, was the largely unwitting founder. It is then both from the deeds and from the writings of de La Salle that we can expect to set out some of the distinctive characteristics of Lasallian spirituality. So, what I've done is I've picked on two aspects from de La Salle's life, which we will look at closer to understand more what Lasallian spirituality is all about. So the first thing I'd like to point out is the background. The growth in the post-Reformation period of different kinds of religious congregations, which were not monastic in the traditional sense, heightened the contrast between these groups, which stressed attaining personal salvation through removing oneself from the dangers of a corrupt and corrupting world, and those which stressed the importance of being Christ's voice and active presence in the lives of ordinary people. So this is what is interesting. In these times, when de La Salle was there was this new and inspiring idea that you can find God in the real world by helping and serving others, especially the vulnerable and the poor, and this attracted de La Salle. So, because the Lasallian spirituality is linked with mission. Today we work with the young in schools or pastoral centers. You see, de La Salle was ordained a priest and was brought up with a bright future ahead of him. He was actually made canon of Reims Cathedral at the age of 16. He had such a promising, bright future in the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, but instead he had a chance encounter with Adrian Niel, and this changed what perhaps his first ideas of his career were all about. Adrian Niel was a layman establishing schools for poor children, for boys really in those days, and de La Salle met him and found himself gradually becoming more involved with Niel in opening schools for the poor. And when Niel actually left Reims to open more schools, de La Salle assumed leadership of the teachers. And here we have this very important link between de La Salle and the teachers. And the teachers in those days were very rough and ready and barely literate men. And in 1680, de La Salle invited them into his family home for meals, which is considered the founding of the institute. So here we see the idea of de La Salle going out, being touched by the need to educate the young, especially the poor. So think a bit. What made you come to a Lasallian school or Lasallian pastoral center? Was it a chance encounter? Was it circumstances? Was it always your dream? The second experience from de La Salle's life, which I'd like to mention, is the heroic vow of 1691. De La Salle was facing very, very huge difficulties. Perhaps we've encountered difficulties in our life too, and yet this moment was an important moment in his life. So that you're going to watch a short video clip now, which explains what happened.
In November of 1691, John Baptist de La Salle found himself and his group of teachers in a dire situation. At that time, he and the brothers had established several schools that provided a Christian education to all children without regard to social class or income. But their ministry was now at risk as opposition to de La Salle's work grew and this fragile congregation experienced harassment and lawsuits. It was a bleak moment for the struggling movement that would become the Brothers of the Christian Schools. We might expect that this overwhelming adversity would be enough for our founder and the brothers to quit or give up the schools. However, it was in this new crossroads that in 1691 a strong sense of association emerged among three friends: de La Salle, Brother Voyart, and Brother Drolin. They vowed to keep together for the sake of the mission, even if all others left, and they were obliged to beg for alms and live on bread alone. Together, they would discern what was best for the society of the Christian schools, and what God required of them. It came to be known as the heroic vow, a statement that radically committed these founding teachers to the work they were called to do. This vow of association and union, pronounced on November 21, 1691, was an act of hope at a time when the work of De La Salle and the early brothers was in serious jeopardy. Surely these three men were fearful that all might be lost. As those around them gave up, they must have questioned themselves and their ministry. Yet, in their dismay, they didn't avoid their difficulties. They didn't try to go around them. De La Salle, Brother Voyart, and Brother Drolin were steadfast. They had the courage and faith to step through their fear and into the light as they committed to each other and their shared mission.
Brother Romery chooses 4 headings in his exploration of Lasallian spirituality. He condenses it into 4 areas: the spirit of community, the spirit of faith, the spirit of zeal, and practical spirituality. And I would like to explore these 4 areas with you now. So let's begin with the spirit of community. It's interesting that Brother Romery puts this first, and I think that was very, very insightful of him. It is this sense of we rather than I that characterizes so much of what the Lasallians do. The decision of those attending the 1686 assembly in Reims was that they would henceforth be called brothers. In itself, this title for consecrated men who were not clerics was not new, but their definition, the brothers' definition of it was, they saw themselves as brothers to one another in their community and as older brothers to the young people whom they saw as confided to their care. So is this the way I see my teaching role? Am I a brother to my colleagues and an older brother to my students, or am I more the prima donna, do it all myself type? It's good to reflect. We're going to watch a short video clip now of a Lasallian colleague who shares his experience of leadership within a school.
I was asked, why is it important to work together? That's a very easy question in actual fact, Ms. Vella, because when we say working together in Lasallian literature, we use the word working in association. The very fact that the founder got together with a number of persons who eventually became the first community, and together in association worked towards a mission. The mission over the years changed. Let's not forget, the Institute is 300 years plus old, so the mission over the years changed. But the idea of working together is pretty much still at the basis of our Lasallian charism. By working together, we mean that we all work together, all the members of staff. Everybody has a part in the mission. The mission changed, yes, it's true, but the way we work together shouldn't have changed in actual fact, because we work together as a team, work together as a one LaSalle to achieve such mission. And that is, I think, very, very important. But how do we achieve the association? How do we achieve working in association? Over a number of good years at De La Salle and being a Lasallian myself, I think that caring for each other is one of the most important ways in which we learn how to work together. When you are a part of a team, we usually mention the word you are part of the family. You have to feel comfortable. You have to feel loved. You have to feel understood. And that is when working in association is possible, working in association to reach our mission. I think that is very, very basic, very, very critical, and very, very important for us as Lasallians.
The spirit of faith, to look upon everything with the eyes of faith and not to do anything but in view of God and to attribute all to God. The Lasallian teacher tries to be constantly aware of God's loving presence in the course of the day. Hark back to the beginning, our prayer, when we say, let us remember we are in the holy presence of God throughout the day. And we listen to another Lasallian colleague expressing her opinion of this.
I do believe that God is with me every step of the way. I think it would be easier to prove by giving examples of when He was there during difficult times. But I've started adding a short prayer in my daily prayer, and it is, God, show me what you want from me and show me what you want me to do. And I've been noticing some changes. Well, they were always there, but I've been noticing them now. I see God in every child who comes to me for help. I see God in that colleague who comes to me with an idea for something that we can do for the rest of the staff. I see it in every problem that's a child can come up to me with. Yes, He is there, and He is guiding me and showing me what He wants me to do.
The spirit of zeal. We are passionate in all that we do. We need to be enthusiastic about our Lasallian mission to touch hearts. We have to love it. I mean, after all, we go to school every day. It would be very arduous if it was a chore. Let us see the beauty in what we're doing. I've got another colleague here to express her opinion.
We are passionate about what we do because we aim at doing what is right for our students and their families, as well as for our fellow colleagues. Because doing what's right is our passion. We feel we belong to a community where there is love and respect. And just like any other family, we may not always agree with each other, but we aim towards reaching the same goal, that of touching hearts. Sometimes you just need one person with a great idea, and soon many others will support the initiative with great enthusiasm and determination. And the result of great teamwork is that of touching hearts. We aim at making a difference in a holistic way. We are Lasallians. One LaSalle, one dream, one goal.
A practical spirituality. We're very lucky that Lasallian spirituality, in my opinion, is very practical and not too abstract. Make no distinction between the duties of your profession and those that refer to your salvation and perfection. Be convinced that you will never achieve your salvation more surely, nor acquire greater perfection than by fulfilling well the duties of your profession, provided you do so with the view of God's will. So see how practical Lasallian spirituality is. All you need to do to deepen your spirituality is to teach well, encounter God in your colleagues and your students. And here I've got some sayings taken from the writings of De La Salle, which I invite you to read at your leisure, which also show us how to live our mission. So that is the bottom line, really. We are, in our daily encounters in the Lasallian schools and pastoral centres, we are asked to live our spirituality. Not a matter of studying something for an exam. You have to live it out. Am I aware that I'm doing God's work with that difficult student who's challenging my authority, or when half the class haven't done their homework, how do I react? What do I do when a colleague of mine undermines my work? How do I react when a parent lies about me and threatens me? Can I approach these moments from a Lasallian perspective? That Lasallian spirituality teaches me how to use these moments to help that person grow and become a better person and not feel down because things go wrong. A few words about your entry points. What interests me is that Lasallians are all different. You might have been born a Catholic, raised a Catholic, you might not. You might be very arduous and fervent in your religion, you might not. But something must have attracted you to the Lasallian mission. And it's good that you are aware and acknowledge what has attracted you to the Lasallian mission. In my experience, it's probably one of the three words: faith, service, or community. It could be the faith dimension which attracted you. You might be well advanced within your spiritual journey. It could be the idea of service, helping others, wanting to do good, to change the world, make it a better place. It could be the sense of community. You love the feeling of belonging and care for one another. Whatever your entry point was, it's important to know it. It might not have happened yet, I don't know, it might happen soon, but be aware, because that is what latches you on to the Lasallian mission. And it's good that you know it and you deepen your ties with the Lasallian mission. So I believe we have different entry points and they might take a while to happen, but it's good to recognize it. And here we've got a witness from an American Lasallian named Michael Smith, who says he never realized that he was a Lasallian. He didn't really understand, but then the penny did drop. I didn't come to LaSalle University to be an evangelist. I came to teach communication in the country's 5th largest media market. However, then he realized that there was more to it than just teaching the subject. This retrospective sense-making represents one important aspect of Lasallian spirituality, recognizing God's hand in the choices that we make and trusting in God's providence as we commit ourselves in service to our students. He further says, it's one thing for a community of brothers to commit themselves to these ideals, but how do we sustain the spirit when we go home? Not to a community of brothers, but to our families who make demands on us, our spouses, our children, who are God's holy gifts, but can also be holy terrors to their siblings. In my life as a Lasallian educator, sustaining the spirit of faith involves seeing the practical connection between one's life and one's work. Lasallian spirituality is an active, practical spirituality. While reflection nourishes the soul, faith without action is lifeless. Brother Gerald Romilly wrote, Lasallian spirituality is lived through the activities which are typical of an educator's day. Lasallian educators practice their spirituality through everything, from the preparation of lessons to the interaction with students. I don't preach, but I teach. So, let us conclude. Today we have sought to understand the distinctive element of who we are as Lasallians. We are educators, but educators with an extra plus factor. And that extra plus factor is our reaching out to God. We are all different in our life journey. We're all at different stages. It's not a problem. It's actually a richness because we accompany one another and sustain one another along the way. What matters is that you have started the Lasallian journey and are willing to take one step at a time to arrive where I believe you are intended to be. De La Salle's own life was marked by a profound sense of openness to discerning and doing God's will. This is clear from what he wrote: God who guides all things with wisdom and serenity, and whose way it is not to force the inclinations of persons, will to commit me entirely to the development of the schools. He did this in an imperceptible manner and over a long period of time, so that one commitment led to another in a way that I did not foresee in the beginning. This is your beginning. Are you willing to take up the challenge? I'm not saying that being a Lasallian educator is easy, but it is rewarding and fulfilling, and it gives you an opportunity not only to make the world a better place, but to grow yourself as a person and to reach fullness and fulfillment. Thank you.